Professor Hall, we meet at last.
The curriculum crisis. It ends tonight.
Of course it ends tonight, but not in the way that you're thinking. That's why I've come here, to enjoy every minute of it.
Not so fast, Agent Smith. That's a nice fantasy, but we need a more practical solution to the curriculum problem.
I can dream, can't I?
Why am I the bad guy?
What I feel, I can't say, but my love is up for you any time of day. Tell me what is my life without your
We'll discuss a few life skills for university students, and this particular section of this week's MUL video is going to give you a few tips on stress and being healthy, taking care of your body through the way you eat, the way you exercise it, how much sleep you allow yourself, things like that. A caveat before we go on. Your professors are humans and we've made life mistakes too. But we've lived longer and we can share our experiences with you. Before we go further, we're going to take a short test on anxiety. To take this test, you need a small piece of paper where you can jot down some notes. You're going to hear a list of 20 statements, and for each one, decide how well that statement describes you. So if it's something that describes you often, then write a U. If it's something that describes you some of the time, okay, write an S. And if it rarely or absolutely never describes you, okay, mark an N. Statement 1. I have trouble sleeping the night before a test. Statement 2. During a test, my palms sweat. Statement 3. Before a test, I get a headache. Statement 4. During a test, I become nauseated. Statement 5. Because of panic, I sometimes cut class on test day. 6. I often have pain in my neck, back, or legs during a test. 7. My heart pounds just before or during a test. 8. I feel nervous and jittery when I'm taking a test. 9. During a test, I have trouble breathing. 10. I lose my appetite before a test. Statement 11. I make careless errors on tests. Statement 12. My mind goes blank during tests. 13. I worry when other students are finished before I am. Statement 14. I feel pressed for time when I'm taking a test. Statement 15. I worry that I may be doing poorly on a test, but that everyone else is doing well. 16. When I am taking a test, I think about my past failures. 17. During a test, I feel as if I have studied all the wrong things. 18. I can't think clearly during tests. 19. I have a hard time understanding and remembering directions when I'm taking a test. 20. After a test, I remember answers to questions I either left blank or answered incorrectly. Take a moment to look at the list of numbers, see if you can notice any patterns. Are there more N's or S's or U's? Now we'll look at what might be considered the answer key. If you wish, replay this portion of the video and re-listen to some of the statements. Items 1 through 10 refer to physical symptoms of anxiety. So if you were able to answer sometimes or usually for these, then you are exhibiting physical signs that you are anxious, nervous, worried, stressed out. 11 through 20 refer to mental things. We have this test so that we can help you be aware of different ways that stress manifests itself and is also thereby affecting you. To be sure, if you are experiencing many of these things that we listed in this awareness check, you might want to discuss with your professor or friends or someone. You may also have to just work with yourself and experiment on different ways that you can try and reduce that stress. Let's look at some tips that we hope will help you combat exam anxiety. First, take responsibility for yourself. Don't blame others. You are the only one who knows yourself and your body and how you feel, so you're the first person that needs to respond to these anxieties you're having and do something about it. Other people may not be able to see that you're feeling nervous or anxious, and they may not be able to help you at all. So take some initiative. Learn to be aware of what you're doing physically during a test, and try to relax. Every so often, stop and ask yourself, am I clenching my teeth? Are my muscles in my shoulders tightened? Am I gripping my pencil more tightly than I need to be? Force yourself to let go of the pencil, to release the tension in your muscles, and take a moment to pause. Breathe deeply. Uncross your legs and simply be still. Dress comfortably when you go to a test. If you have tight or uncomfortable clothes or something itchy like polyester that you don't really like, well, you're going to feel uncomfortable and that will distract you from focusing on the test. Remember, you are in charge of your thoughts. Make them positive ones about yourself. Tell yourself, no worries, I'll be fine, it's not the end of the world. Take a moment to pause the video and consider, do you know of some other effective ways of dealing with stress? If you've got your roommate next to you, why don't you pause, tap them on the shoulder, and ask them what they think. Let's look a little more closely at simply staying healthy. Some of the things that we're going to tell you may seem obvious, but as with many of the things that we have mentioned during managing university life, it has come to our attention that even though something may seem to be an obvious step, it's worth mentioning because there's going to be somebody who hasn't thought about it or has simply been too busy to take the time to consider. Also, although many of you may live in the dormitory and not feel that you have a lot of control over things such as the quietness of your room when you go to sleep or the menu that you eat every day in the cafeteria, there are things you can do to help manage your physical well-being to improve how you feel and thereby to improve the effectiveness of your study, and we certainly hope to thereby get you better grades. The tips that we're going to discuss about staying healthy are not amazingly difficult. Having a healthy body is not rocket science. It does not involve a PhD. Although I'm sure that someone who does have a PhD in nutrition would do a better job than my own explanation at helping you be healthy. If you just consider these 4 basic items, I'm sure you can do a lot towards making yourself healthier. Surprise, surprise. Getting adequate sleep does help. By now you should know that sleep is very important. In particular because we've already talked about diminishing returns and we talked about getting sufficient sleep for tests. And of course, since many students tell me that they are tired, I know you guys need a little bit more of it. Although you may still be in denial, you ought to admit that sleep is important and that you need a decent amount of it. Of course, everybody has a different amount that they can tolerate and that they need. Sure, you even may know some of those people. Those people who can function really well even if they've only had 2 or 3 hours of sleep at night. However, I'll bet you that most of us are not those people. I have rarely been able to function on less than 4 hours of sleep. Most of us function less well, our bodies are less happy if we sleep less. Let's try to change it to a little more sleep, a little more functionality because we've had some more sleep, and a little bit happier day because we don't feel as tired as we usually do. Remind yourself, more study is not necessarily going to be helpful. Sitting at a computer all day, or at your desk, or in your classroom is not good for you. Many numbers have been thrown around by various doctors, but a good rule of thumb is 30 minutes of exercise 3 or more times a week. And 30 minutes of exercise, especially if you're someone who doesn't normally do exercise, doesn't mean you have to suddenly sign up for a gym membership and take a spin class. You can do a lot of easy and free and relatively simple things around campus. You can grab a buddy and make an appointment with them to take a walk around the campus, especially in the cool of the evening. This could also be a nice break from so much studying. It seems to be such a simple tip, but proper food is important. If you get up late habitually and you don't normally have time to catch breakfast in the cafeteria, perhaps you can make some kind of arrangement. You could get some cereal and put it in a bag and carry some fruit. Be sure you're getting a good amount of food. Be sure as much as you can, you try to fit in a variety of foods. And try to watch out for those things like too many visits to have samgyeopsal, kalbi, or things like that. Your mental well-being is very important too. You don't want to neglect your body, and you don't want to neglect your mind. So if you found out that there are many things that are giving you anxiety, such as tests and presentations and other assignments, find ways to target the specific anxious behaviors or sensations that you're getting. See what you can do to address your mental health. Talk to someone if you need to, or simply set aside a few moments where you can just be quiet or play some comforting music, or even take a walk down the hall to cool off if you're having a really stressful moment. A few final thoughts about food, since it is perhaps a difficult habit to change. We always have to eat, and we always seem to not have enough time to eat well. As foreign professors, we've been told over and over and over and over again that Korean food is healthy, good for you, and nutritious. But if you're a typical college student, eating lots of instant noodles and drinking instant coffee and sodas and eating prepackaged sandwiches in the convenience store or buying those tasty waffles in the convenience store and things like that. This statement about Korean food being healthy doesn't mean anything because you're obviously not partaking of healthy Korean food. Whatever you have to do, even if you're super busy and you can't go anywhere except the convenience store in Bower Hall, okay, fine. Promise yourself you'll have a good dinner and simply buy something like a kimbap and go back to class. I promise you. Although the waffle may taste good at the beginning, later on, when you're falling asleep in class because you've had a sugar rush, you'll probably be reconsidering that. If you don't remember anything else about this part of the lesson, consider these tips. Try to eat a balanced meal. Incorporate vegetables and fruits. Go to the store if you have to and pick up some fruit, but put it into your diet. Avoid too much snack food, and definitely don't replace a meal with snacks. Maybe you're really hungry because you've barely got 30 minutes for lunch, but don't go and fill up on a bunch of cookies and crackers. Don't make a habit of skipping meals. It may seem simple the first time you do it, but you're reducing your blood sugar level and probably reducing your brain's capacity to function. Don't stuff yourself before bedtime. It's probably better to have many smaller meals throughout the day. It helps you maintain a more consistent blood sugar level and a more consistent functioning capacity for your mind. Drink lots of water. You always see me carrying a water bottle when I go to class. Some experts say you need 8 to 10 glasses of water a day. And by glass, they don't mean the little cup that you get in the cafeteria. As someone who, I will admit, enjoyed my share of fast food and processed food more often when I was living in the US, I can tell you that now that I eat much less of that, when I do eat a little bit more junk food or processed food or whatever than I normally do, I can feel it. I feel a little more sluggish. I feel a little heavier. I feel a little less alert. Sometimes I feel downright icky. It depends on what I've eaten. Getting off of these habits and getting onto some good habits is going to help.
In this next section, we're going to discuss some rather adult issues. Remember that we're giving our own opinions as professors, and we don't necessarily represent KAC or Keimyung's official positions. Some of the things we're going to talk about are unpleasant, but it's our feeling that this is information you need and that you're unlikely to get as college students. Usually when people talk about addictions, they mean cigarettes or illegal drugs. Those are real and potentially dangerous substances that university students can become addicted to. What you probably don't realize is that many common activities can also be addictive and can interfere with your ability to function. Look at the following graphic and ask yourself whether you have ever been at risk of making any of these activities such a large part of your life that you couldn't stop, or if any of these activities interfered with family or personal relationships, or with your studies. I've had some friends who were kicked out of college in Canada over drugs, but far more friends who failed because of video games. So in determining whether or not you have an addiction, ask yourself a few questions. Is what I'm doing an occasional enjoyment? Or is it beginning to run my life and interfere with my studies, family, or social life? Is what I'm doing dangerous to my health? Are all of my friends beginning to be people who have the same habit? If any of these questions are true, you may be addicted, and you might think of managing or eliminating that addiction. Some addictions are worse than others. I think chocolate is not a bad addiction to have. The next topic we'd like to discuss is drinking. I admit I drank enough in college, and so I'm not going to sound like a hypocrite and tell you to never drink. I do not think it is unprofessional or unchristian to drink alcohol responsibly and in moderation. What we call binge drinking is something else. Binge drinking refers to the habit of drinking as much and as fast as possible, with the only goal of getting drunk. Binge drinking can result in academic consequences if you're always hungover in class and can't concentrate. It can also result in injury, sexual assault, and death. I realize that competitive drinking and night-long parties are a part of Korean culture and of MTs, and initiations on Korean campuses, I will only tell you that everybody thinks they are indestructible when they are 20, and you are not. You are seldom in as much danger as you are when you binge drink. So if you want to enjoy drinking but don't want to drink dangerously or irresponsibly, here is some advice that I can give you from hard experience. Know what you're drinking. What is the alcohol percentage? Understand that drinks like soju and gin are much, much stronger than beer. Do not drink on an empty stomach. Eating slows absorption of alcohol and makes you drunk more slowly. Drink with people you trust. Be careful about drinking games. They can be fun, but you may feel pressured into consuming more than you want for longer than you want. If you don't want to drink alcohol, carry a non-alcoholic drink to avoid having drinks pushed on you. Lastly, never drive drunk. Many of your professors have also had friends killed. So what are we telling you in conclusion? We are not telling you not to have fun or not to drink alcohol. We do. But our advice is much like our advice for the classroom. Drink smart. You probably don't want to hear about sex, but some of you need to. Again, we are not telling you to engage in sex or not to engage in sex. That's not our business. But it is our business to tell you that the consequences of sex are something that you will have to accept as an adult. A recent report indicated that 20% of Korean men in their 20s pay for sex regularly. We won't judge you. We'll just tell you, know what you're getting yourself into. Know what kind of example you're setting for other people. Know what kind of industry you're supporting. For women, this is a sensitive subject, and I don't want anyone to think that women ever deserve sexual assault. I will again only say that how you dress and how you conduct yourself sends men messages. I've had several female friends raped when I was in college, and in each case they drank too much and teased men with their bodies. Rape is a crime and is not your fault, but you are an idiot if you deliberately put yourself in a dangerous situation. Would like to end by telling you again that we don't want you to avoid having fun out of fear. College is a time to try new experiences and to push your limits and to enjoy yourself. We are telling you to have fun safely. In other words, to have fun smart. Some students are confused about the grading system for managing university life, so let's review. What do you need to do to pass the course? 1. You need to hand in assignments on time. 2. You need to get a grade at or above the class average on midterms and finals. In this case, the average was 68%. 3. If you fail or miss an assignment, that is an X. If you get below average on a midterm or final, that is an X. You can have up to 3 X's in the semester. At 4 you will fail. Most of you will pass the course, but now you know the details. I can't resist. The lesson is MUL Smart.